Hello, hello. Welcome to another video here on my YouTube channel. Today's video is answering a question I got on Instagram. This person asks, Lissa, what are your top 5 tips for transitioning to a raw vegan diet? So let's dig into that in this video. Thank you so much for joining me today for this video. Please go check out the plant-based bundle that is going on right now. We love being part of bundles because we're able to provide a lot of our content for a very, very, very low price. So we have contributed over $350 worth of content to this bundle. You're getting my new sushi ebook, Nate's new seed cracker ebook, his new smoothie ebook, the raw vegan transition guide that can also help you transition to a raw diet, and things like our Align and Awaken Affirmation Meditation Challenge. That alone retails for $197, but you pay $50 for this bundle and you get to download all of that content plus all the stuff from everyone else. If you want to see everything that you get in the bundle from other people as well, check out the link in the description box below and go grab that. You can also get 40% off any or all of our ebooks separately with code RAWFOOD40 at payhip.com/rawfoodromance. That link is also in the description box below. So let's answer this question. Lissa, what are your top 5 tips for transitioning to a raw vegan diet? So when I first went raw, these are some tips that I would have loved to have heard the day I went raw. I learned them slowly over time. So I want to share some of those here. Now, obviously, there are so many other tips to transitioning, and it's all about learning. Learning as you go, taking your time, which is the first tip. Take your time and go slow. This is not a competition. There's no one giving out medals for who can be the most perfect raw vegan. It's all about your journey, where you want to go. And it has a lot to do with where you're starting at. If you are starting to follow a raw diet or you're trying to add more raw into your diet, it's going to be really challenging if you're coming from a diet that is a really low fiber and has processed foods and animal products and stuff like that in it. Your gut might not be adjusted to the amount of fiber that you're going to need to eat on a raw diet. It's best to go slow and work up to it. So first things first, I recommend going vegan. And this is what I talk about in the 52 to a New You ebook. It is a slower pace because it's 52. It's meant to be done over the year. So every single week you have a new thing to tackle. First, it's going vegan. So you take a couple weeks to get into veganism if you're not vegan already. If you are vegan, you can skip those steps and just start after that. But if you are not, you need to go vegan first. Don't worry about the raw thing. As a vegan, you're already going to be eating a fair amount of raw food. At least you'd hope so if you're not doing a lot of junk food. But you're going to want to start slow with adding more raw in so your gut can grow accordingly. Just like your muscles in the gym, and I've talked about this so many times on this channel, is it takes time for your muscles to grow, and as they grow, you can increase the weight. Same with your gut microbiome. It takes time to grow, and as they grow, you can increase the fiber. So start with going vegan first. Once you go vegan, then you can slowly taper off the cooked food. And instead of thinking of tapering off the cooked food, think of the opposite, which would be adding more raw food. Because when you add more raw food, it naturally tapers off, the cooked stuff. So it's a different way of looking at it. If we think of, oh, I have to eat less cooked food, then it's going to be more challenging because you're focused on eating less cooked food. When instead you could think of, I'm going to eat more raw food. And that makes it a little easier because then the cooked food kind of takes a sideline, so to speak. And again, you don't have to be a fully raw vegan. You can work up to it, but that's why I say to go slow. That is key. And I took a decade before I actually committed to a raw vegan diet. I learned about raw food in 2004. And it took me a whole decade of trying on and off over and over and over and over and over again. Granted, I was always doing a high fat version and I wasn't eating enough, but I did have a lot of experience practicing a raw food diet here and there. So that was kind of under my belt when I went raw in 2014. And this time I tried the low fat approach. So that's another tip that I would recommend for transitioning is to start lowering your fat percentage, because when we eat too much fat, it can interfere with our insulin. So if we want to be able to use and absorb the sugars really easily, then we have to have sensitive insulin. And that means having a lower fat diet, not a no fat diet. I don't promote a no fat diet. It's more of an appropriate amount of fat diet, which is roughly around 10, maybe 15% total calories from fats, not being scared of them, but using them appropriately. I like to have the fats with greens. Fruit by itself is pretty much kind of a good guide. But if you're going to start eating more fruit and a lot more greens and vegetables, mainly the fruit because it's, has the sugar in it, you're going to need to lower your fat percentage down. So one of the things that you can start with is lowering your fat down as you start increasing your fruits and vegetables so that it's a little bit more balanced for your body, especially if you're coming from a high fat diet, you're going to need to take some time to lower that as well. The third thing that I would suggest for transitioning is to make sure you eat enough. This should really be number one because most people struggle on a raw diet because they don't eat enough calories or variety. You've got to eat more colors. You have to eat bigger salads, have more fruit as snacks, have bigger fruit bowls or smoothies for breakfast, get more calories in, because if you are not eating enough, then you run the risk of finding deficiencies because you're just not eating enough nutrients in general. You might feel like you have way too many cravings. You might feel tired. A lot of the classic detox symptoms typically are under eating symptoms as well. So sometimes people will go on a raw diet. They won't be eating very much because they feel full from the water and the fiber, but they get things like headaches, they feel tired, maybe some brain fog, and they say that that is detox. But it most likely is because they're not eating enough. And like I've said before, that's the number one reason why people struggle on a raw diet is that they are not eating enough. And I encounter this so many times. Most people have this issue when they start to go raw. So make sure you eat enough. Again, bigger salads, more fruit for snacks, bigger smoothies, get more in. And you may need to start eating earlier in the day to be able to get enough calories in throughout the day. So you're not starting to eat at like noon and suddenly you have to fit 2,400 calories worth of raw food in your stomach over the next 4 hours or 5 hours. It's really hard because raw food expands with the water and the fiber. It expands your stomach. And then you get that satiation hormone that says, hey, I'm done. But you really only have like 500 calories in your stomach. So it's really hard to get the amount of calories you need in a smaller window. So start eating earlier. It's easy to digest food, so it's not like you're eating really heavy stuff for your meals. You're eating very quick digesting foods. So starting earlier, getting the majority of your calories in the earlier hours of the day is going to be really helpful. But eating enough is definitely key to finding success when you transition to eating more raw food. The fourth thing is more of a mindset thing, but don't compare yourself to others. Don't compare yourself to someone online who has been eating raw for 5 years. Don't compare yourself to somebody who is telling you that if you eat a specific raw food, then you're not pure enough, or if you don't do this specific protocol, then you're not going to heal properly. Try to avoid comparing yourself or getting too worried about being perfect, because there are so many people out there who say this is the perfect way to do it. But it's really about working with your body and doing stuff that supports your body through this process. It's challenging enough to change our diet. We don't need to add comparing ourselves to others on top of that. So that's another tip as well. Take inspiration from others, but don't compare yourself to others. And then finally, we all know that we should be consistent. So when transitioning or changing over to a raw diet, it's all about consistency. The more often you choose raw food, the easier it gets to choose raw food. So if you find it challenging, keep choosing it because it does get easier as your habits change, your cravings change, and it gets easier and easier every time that you do it. We all know we get good at what we practice. So if you want to practice being a raw vegan, then it will get easier with time the more you practice. So thank you so much for asking this question. It was a good one. Again, there's so many other things that I could share. If you are looking to transition to eating more raw food, grab the plant-based bundle because there is raw food in there. It's not an all raw bundle, but there is quite a bit of raw in there. But you also get my 52 to a New You Raw Vegan Transition Guide as part of the bundle, along with my brand new sushi ebook, Nate's brand new cracker and spread ebook, his brand new smoothie ebook. There's a lot of new content in there. If you missed the last bundle or bundles, then this is a great one to get because we've got some new stuff in there for you from those bundles. We love bundles because it's a great way for us to put a lot of our content in there. You're getting over $350 worth of our content for just $50, plus all the other stuff from everyone else. So go check it out. The link is in the description box below, and we'll be back tomorrow for another video. Until then, fruit on.